I have to say, some of the combatants do look hilarious, particularly the sparrow-chested balaclava wearer caught my eye. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. Wooga. It's cold outside, and the paint's peeling off of my walls. There's a man outside in a long coat, grey hat, smoking a cigarette. More on that later. But first, we have a song to listen to, provided by my colleague Andy and fellow troublemaker. Andy, what have you got for us?
I really wanted to revisit this band, and frankly, it's been too much time since we initially listened to them on this channel. So I'm stoked to bring them back and dust off a song of theirs from the past and sort of my youth, well, not youth, but my, I don't know, young adulthood that really resonated with me, and I wanted to bring it to the channel. I wanted to revisit the Mountain Goats. You remember listening to No Children by them?
Yes, I do. And without sounding derogatory, the way it was done with the content, I almost view that as a bit of a quirky oddity, not novelty song, but do you know what I mean? It's just a bit sort of odd in the way it's done, as opposed to, I don't know if that's a true representation of their total sound. It's clearly a very popular cult song, as evidenced by the views and comments. And I don't mean any sort of disrespect to the content of it, but the way it's done is quite I found it hilarious. And I think most people did as well.
It is humorous, but it's also quite dark.
Yes.
As is just that whole concept album about this toxic couple. But this track is off two albums later off of the album. So go off, give it a listen to. We'll discuss it more on the other side, obviously, as we always do. But I'm interested to hear what you think of this second go round with the Mountain Goats, and the track is called This Year.
I would say it's an inspiring title, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we're in January. We got a whole calendar year ahead of us. What better time than now to give this tune a listen?
All right, we'll do. Okay, so there's a really stirring start with the strings, and put me in mind of a couple of things. I really enjoyed that, actually. And then this lovely piano, and we're into the song proper in this kind of hostage situation. I have to say, some of the combatants in this don't look that threatening. But there's obviously a huge sense of humor to this, which is funny. Okay, here we go. Okay, so really nice sound. The piano is really nice with the acoustic guitar as well. It's fairly simple musically, but it's not a really nice sound. Um, and the narrative, I'm not getting every single word. I'm hearing them, they're just not sticking. But it's this sort of teen angst scenario, and it's the kind of things that are important. He said something about being 17, leaving a broken house, and the things important to him. So 6 cylinders in his car, girl called Kathy, drinking scotch, playing video games. What else do you want at 17? Fair enough. Um, I really like the line. What was it? Twin high maintenance machines. That's quite a funny line, and I don't know if he really means it because that's quite self-aware for 17. But yeah, there you go. A really nice line. And I like the way the vocals kick in for the chorus. There's a lot of humour to this as well.
I am gonna make it through this year if it kills me. I drove home in the California dusk. I could feel the alcohol inside of me hum. Pictured the look on my stepfather's face, ready for the bad things to come. I downshifted as I pulled into the driveway. The motor screaming out, stuck in second gear. The scene ends badly, as you might imagine. In a cavalcade of anger and fear, there will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year. I am gonna make it through this year if it kills me. I am gonna make it through this year if it kills me.
Well, that was a pleasant little tune. It's weird because it's quite angst-ridden in terms of the lyrics. There's something about the evil stepfather as well, the trouble returning to the house. So you get this feeling of, does it want to escape or feeling isolated? But with the video as well, there's like bits of humour. I mean, I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. Can be seen in a couple of ways. But yeah, I found this quite fun actually, and I don't think it's meant to be taken that seriously. Um, Really interesting line. So I wrote down there will be. Oh God, I can't read. I'll have to. There's something about feasting in Jerusalem this time next year, which makes you think of a lot of things, particularly at the moment. Which I don't know when they wrote this, but I guess things never change. Right. Well, let's find out a bit more by going back and speaking with Andy.
All right. So you have returned. And what did you make of This Year by the Mountain Goats?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, the song and the video are both very enjoyable, and I'll get into that. But it starts off with these stirring strings at the start, and I'm picturing some sort of restoration drama, all powdered wigs and candlelight assignations, draftsman's contract with the wonderful Michael Nyman soundtrack. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I will seek out some Michael Nyman and force it upon you, and you're going to see the viewers run for the hills.
Yes.
Obviously, this was not it. And I wonder why they put that in at the start. It's quite odd in context with everything else. But I found that really charming and exciting, and I love that sort of music, as particularly as this sort of, you know, opening overture, if you want to call it that.
I actually wondered if you were going to get shades of the family crest and Beneath the Brine with that intro, because it had elements of that to it, at least in that little bit, right?
And then Cloud Cult as well. Yeah.
Yes, of course, right?
Both of those, yeah. But I went straight to the source of Michael Nyman. But anyway, so then through the video, the hostage situation unfolds.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, some of the combatants do look hilarious, particularly the sparrow-chested balaclava wearer caught my eye.
The sparrow chested. Yes.
As did the great machete-wielding destroyer of sofas.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's this lovely strident piano chords that take us into the song proper. And they continue through it, and really, really like that a lot. And with a sympathetic bass that kind of almost mirrors some of the piano chords, and an acoustic guitar and this peppy beat. There's more hilarity from the Red Hand Gang, including this gnome-like figure, gnome-like lighting hand with his spotlight. Really odd. Do you know what? I mean, I didn't write this down, but overall, the flavor of the video is almost like some sort of off-kilter European film, like one of the French films where, you know, a gang takes over a house for a weekend and kills everybody in it, but in a shit way. You know, they're incompetent. It had that feel. But yeah, so the singer begins, and I don't know if I'm missing the mark completely here, but I don't think I am. He plays it straight, complete with his bleeding, you know, forehead, but particularly with the visuals, and I think with him, there is a huge swell of humor in this, but it's kind of good-natured humor. You know, it's not at the cost of anybody. For me, and it counters. There's this counterbalance of this humor against this earnest teenage angst. Yeah, I really like that, actually. They hit a balancing line really well. So the first few lines, I mean, musically, I'd say it's fairly simple, and actually pretty consistent throughout. So the intrigue for me, or the interest, was in the lyrics, and I tried to write down as much as I could. The first few, like, I'm getting images from, you know, some of the lyrics. I think I got a fair amount. For me, I'm really proud. Anyway, the first few lines, it says about broke free on a Saturday morning, pedal to the floor, engine roar. So he's equating his car with freedom. And this is backed up with a line later or so where he says, my broken house behind me. So you get this scenario that it's escape, you know, and this excitement and freedom. But and as I say, so the sound is basic, the music, but the purity, particularly of the piano and the chord progression, makes this really pleasant listen. And I really enjoyed that. So we learned that this car, which he is very fond of, has 6 cylinders, and he's particularly pleased about that. And there's also this prospect of a girl called Kathy. And as we know, that's always a good thing. There's a repeated line chorus, which is then backed up by another singer. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. And again, there's this angst against humor balancing act there, because it is on the face of it, it can be a very funny line, the counterbalance between making it and killing me, but also there's sort of gut fit, this very, at the time, you know, teenage emotions are very, very sort of condensed, aren't they, and important, and then you look back at it in the lens 20 years later and you think, you idiot. But at the time, it's so focused. So the protagonist is having a great time for what we learned as a 17-year-old. I mean, he's listing them all. He's got his video games, his scotch, and female company. I mean, I think I said in the reaction, what more do you need? There's something both sweet and kind of like mundane about their time together, but clearly important to this kid. And this is underlined visually in the video by one of the captors painting another one's nails. There's that sort of sweetness together. which is quite funny. And there's a great line at the end of that where he says about the both of them together being twin high maintenance machines,
One of my favorite
which I
lines.
think again is great because it also, and I'm sure he does mean this because they're clearly, they're not dummies, these guys, but there's a touch of self-awareness, or I don't know whether it's sort of like, I think it is, but it's an unusual self-awareness for a 17-year-old to describe himself as a high maintenance. Maybe they're kind of proud of that, I guess. I probably would be. I wouldn't have been able to describe myself as that at 17, I tell you. So there's another chorus, and the masked dancer reveals his face and then immediately hides it in a swash of hair, like a Timotei advert. And then we're on to the return journey home. An evil stepfather is mentioned as he narrates his gear-changing skills on the driveway of the house. And again, there's this strong feeling of isolation within his own home, and wanting to escape, even on the moment of his return, which is quite telling. And then there's the most interesting line of all, well, provoking. There will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year. Now, aside from, and I don't know when this was, I think you said like back in your ute, so 20 years ago or something. But aside from the sort of Passover connection, and I do have only a faint knowledge of the Jewish faith and customs, but that Passover celebrates escape from bondage from Egypt. This also made me think of the present situation, and I said in the reaction, I guess, compared to when it was written and now, nothing ever changes. And I'm sure I strongly suspect that in another 20 years' time, this song, that line will have relevance to or pertinence to the Middle East situation, that, in the future as well, because it seems that shit is unsortable. But it just made me think of the what that line is used for, and then what that line is used for in this song, and then how that song would impact on the situation right now to people on the Gaza Strip. It's just provoking. There's not a criticism here or there or anything at all, but it just makes you think, doesn't it? So the mass dancer crumbles after all his efforts. The gnome unplugs his spotlight, and it's time for a group photo. Straight out of the Stockholm bank robbery playbook that spawned the famous syndrome. I know then in the photograph that the drummer's arms are tied, are bound, which kind of explains the lack of variation in the drumming, which I thought was a visual really, really not clever and funny thing as well.
Yeah.
Musically, it was really easy on the ears and repetitive, which is, as you know, something that I do not mind at all. And I think it's the piano chords, but they spoke to me they had that feeling of hope to them. I don't know why, but it just immediately, that just made me feel hopeful. But there was a bitterness and humor in the lyrics, which was evident from the previous song as well. So they have their way of doing things, and I really liked the cleverness to it as well. I could see this, the chorus in particular, being a bit of an anthem for the disaffected and the distant. So yeah, I would understand if you told me this is a cult song or hugely popular. I would understand that instantly. But yeah, I enjoyed this, and I loved and the whole package with the video as well. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a cult song that's hugely popular. This is one of their I guess most loved songs for sure. And as we've alluded to throughout this discussion, you guys, we've done a reaction to No Children, where we get more in depth and detail of the band and who they are, how they came to be. If you want to check that out, please feel free to do so. I'm just going to gloss over some stuff and then just kind of focus on this album and the song for the sake of this reaction. But quick recap of the band. Having said that, John Darnielle, who is kind of the mastermind songwriter of the band, the gentleman with the bleeding forehead, Peter Hughes, John Worster, and Matt Douglas. And The Sunset Tree, the name of this album, is the 9th studio album by the band. It was recorded in November of 2004 and released April 26th. The album's songs, this is kind of like another concept album, kind of like Tallahassee was.
Let me just try and remember. You said something about the last one being, and I haven't gone back, so this is faint memory. The Couple.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Right.
was it Alpha Couple or something? I think the
Yeah,
word
yeah,
alpha
yeah,
was used.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just an awful toxic couple, and the entire album kind of covers their relationship. This one focuses on his childhood, and a reoccurring theme of the album is domestic violence. And the album title refers to a scene in Samuel Butler's The Way of All Flesh, in which the character Theobald beats his son, Ernest, for being unable to pronounce a hard C when singing a hymn. The hymn, the Tyrolese Evening Hymn, begins with the lines, "Come, come, come, come to the sunset tree." So that is the derivation of the name. And the
If you
album's...
got problems with C, then that's a bad one to
Yeah.
choose.
There's only one way to fix it, apparently, beating the shit out of you. But yeah, in the album's liner notes, Darnielle writes, "Made possible by my stepfather, Mike Noonan, 1940 to 2004. May the peace which eluded you in life be yours now. Dedicated to any young men and women anywhere who live with people who abuse them. With the following good news. You are going to make it out of there alive. You will live to tell your story. Never lose hope." And yeah. So not to get too in the weeds with things, but like my parents divorced when I was 3. My mom's been married at least 5 times and engaged 7. And there's been a lot of turnover in my youth with like temporary father figures. And I remember being 17 and my car being the only thing to get me out of exactly where I didn't want to be. And I was one of the people that he was talking to in his liner notes. And I didn't hear this until not when I was 17, later, like in my 20s, early 20s. But it still wasn't distant enough for me to not, one, wish I had this song when I was 17, but also still be able to extrapolate from it the message that they're in. And I fucking love this song. Many lyrics reference Darnielle's abusive childhood, especially in the song This Year, Dance Music, and Hast Thou Considered the Tetrapod. The tone of the album is somber, dealing with Darnielle's longing for escape and his feelings of powerlessness. The Sunset Tree has a Metascore of 83 on Metacritic, based on 28 reviews, which indicates universal acclaim. Pitchfork placed The Sunset Tree at number 102 on their list. It's so great. I'm looking at my notes. I can still see your happening. So Pitchfork placed The Sunset Tree at number 102 on their list of top 200 albums of the 2000s. And Philip Moss of the website Secret Meaning gave the record an 89 out of 100 score and wrote, "The Sunset Tree is also ironically a brilliant pop record, and John Vanderslice, best known for his work on Spoon's 2005 album Gimme Fiction, juxtaposes the harsh subject matter with some simple yet brilliantly tasteful production and tight arrangements, best highlighted on the single This Year." So I'm going to jump into the lyrics, which you kind of caught a pretty good bit of. So yeah, kudos to you. They go, "I broke free."
That's what I do.
That's what you do. Yeah, you just kill it, John, with lyrics. "I broke free on a Saturday morning. I put the pedal to the floor, headed north on Mills Avenue, and listened to the engine roar. My broken house behind me and good things ahead. A girl named Kathy wants a little of my time. 6 cylinders underneath the hood, crashing and kicking. Aha! Listen to the engine whine. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I played video games in a drunken haze. I was 17 years young. Hurt my knuckles punching the machines. The taste of scotch rich on my tongue. And then Kathy showed up and we hung out, trading swigs from a bottle, all bitter and clean. Locking eyes, holding hands. twin high maintenance machines. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I drove home in the California dusk. I could feel the alcohol inside of me hum. Pictured the look on my stepfather's face, ready for the bad things to come. I downshifted as I pulled into the driveway, the motor screaming out, stuck in second gear. The scene ends badly, as you might imagine, in a cavalcade of anger and fear. There will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. Yeah, he is, and I from my perspective, a wildly underrated songwriter and storyteller. And he does this great job of mixing like genuine fucked up situations with just the right amount of like, I don't know, this like esoteric irony and self-deprecating allusions. He doesn't take himself seriously, but he takes these situations seriously, and it's a weird cocktail when he throws it behind this like almost ruckus pub sounding music that you could almost drink to, and which I guess is kind of good because you hear this stuff and you kind of want to have a drink after you hear it, because it's like, it's heavy shit, but it's done with this I don't know, this kind of like, there are these writers, these Mark Twain type figures that are able to talk about this stuff with enough humor to not have it land on you like a wet blanket, but for you to still be able to ingest it and understand the gravity of the issues being addressed. And whether it's a toxic relationship between two awful fucking people and how they're their own worst enemies, to this situation of someone on the cusp of adulthood just jonesing to get out of a situation where there's domestic violence in the household, is just really interesting to me. And like you said, like there's some provocative nature to the packaging of it all. And I just think he's wildly clever and intelligent, smart. He's got a comedic writer's, mind when it comes to how he pens this stuff. But it also is sad in its own way. And maybe it's that age-old mechanism for those with a comedic mind to try to use laughter as a defense mechanism for all the fucked up shit you've gone through. And it's just a ringing example of that. And he does it to some really lovely music. So yeah, John Darnielle, one of my favorite songwriters out there. And I'm glad I could bring another tune by the Mountain Goats to the channel. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it for all the reasons that I think one is supposed to, right?
Yeah, self-preservation, mechanism was the first thing that came to mind when you were going through the lyrics. And I just wonder why he put that, there will be feasting and dancing in Jerusalem next year. It's just it's an interesting, that's a really provocative line to put in right in the middle of all this.
Yeah. Well, or sort of as at the last thing he says before he goes into the, I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me. Like that's the last line that isn't the chorus refrain that's used throughout the whole song. It is interesting. And I guess there's maybe because he turns 18 in the next calendar year, which means he's free to leave and no longer bound by law to this shitty situation. He can liberate himself just based off legal age. And I think maybe that's what he's alluding to. Like, just one more year, I can get my own fucking apartment and I can get away from all this bullshit. Trying to do this on my own, which is better than, having to do it in that atmosphere, in that environment. Yeah,
I guess from the perspective of the people who say this, Jerusalem is the promised land,
Yeah.
From their perspective, anyway.
Yeah, I think he's saying adulthood, for legal adulthood, is the promised land for me, and I'm going to get through this, get out on the other side and get away from all this toxicity. So, yeah, really glad you liked it. Picked up on a lot of the stuff I hoped and figured you would. We both kind of like this kind of stuff, I think, in like our comedies and tragedies. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for giving a listen, guys out there in the listening audience. Let us know what you thought of this tune this year by the Mountain Goats. If it reminded you of anything, if there's other songs by them out there that obviously we've only covered 2 that we haven't listened to yet, please pop them down in the comments field below. It's there for a reason. We love checking out your guys' recommendations and thoughts on songs that we've covered. All that out of the way, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. We're trying to grow the channel here. We can't do that without you guys. We really, really do appreciate it. And hopefully, John and I will see all y'all and then some more on the next episode of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.